now heading on over into our panel of the day. It's going to be a refreshing one. We're going to be diving into the conversation of, do you really control all of your data? Let's discuss. Please join me in welcoming to the stage our panelists. Brilliant, welcome. We've got 3 boxes. Find a box, make a friend. We're all here together. So we've now had lots of, I'm going to call them one-sided conversations on the stage until now. I'm hoping this is going to be a 5-way conversation with 5 different industries. The same question: who controls your data? So I'm going to head down the aisle from here over to the end. And could you please, in one sentence, who you are, what you do, and give me a take on what data control means to you in your business.
Okay. Servus, my name is Markus Fürlinger. I'm CIO from the Gartner KG, so not the Gartner technology everybody's talking about today. We have the trucks with the same color what Lobster has, so green, yellow trucks, about 2,200 trucks on European roads away. And for me, data control means I need to connect the dots and need the process know-how, what I can do with the data.
Good afternoon. My name is Sebastian Bleser. I'm the Senior Vice President at Autodoc. I lead the entire supply chain organization. Our supply chain organization sells 8 million different SKUs in 20 million different orders all across Europe. Data is the key enabler for our business to match demand to supply and ensure that we can navigate this complex ecosystem.
Thank you.
So I'll go next. Hanna, I'm Managing Director of Bosch Mobility Platform Solutions. So we do belong to Robert Bosch, who's one of the largest tier 1 suppliers globally, and you might have heard the name. What does data control mean for me? To me, it's really about orchestrating different partners, because we've heard a lot about that today, and we will discuss it in more depth. It's not only about the data control which you have in your own company, but how do you orchestrate different ecosystems and bring together more value by partnering in the right approach?
I think I skipped the name part and I reiterate what I said earlier. I think for me, 3 things. So the visibility, the being able to act on it, and have the flexibility basically to change course if needed. So that's kind of what I would sum up as data control or being in control. But over to Tobias.
Thank you. Moin. Good afternoon. Great to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I'm the Managing Director of Germany, Kühne+Nagel, which is the founding country organization of the group, 1890 in Bremen, but also in Hamburg we have major operations. What does data mean for me? What does data mean for KN as a global leader in transportation, ASC, but also being very strong in road, logistics, integrated logistics, and various value-added services? It's the oil of our product development. So without data, we cannot excel and differentiate, and we'll probably in the discussion then see the different perspectives. We've always believed in proprietary systems, control the data, and therefore being able to develop superior products end to end.
Thank you, Tobias. You touched on a topic there, different perspectives. I'm hoping that you all have slightly different perspective on all of the topics we'll be talking about today. And I think our audience can agree the best panels are the ones where there's lively discussion, honest opinions and disagreements, and that's fine. So I'll encourage you, if someone says something you don't agree with, why don't you just butt in? Maybe have your thoughts as well. So that's my encouragement, my advice to the room now. But I'd like to kick things off with a question to you, Markus, because we've moved on from Timur, who obviously spoke about physical assets, physical instances, and I wanted to talk about your on-prem over cloud approach at Gartner. If you could tell us a little bit about that decision.
Yeah, basically, it's not where the service is standing and is it a storage, whatever. On-prem means for me also how can I handle the data. So we highly invested a lot in our HR and our business. So we need to know what the business needs and need to know where our data is. Because if we don't know where the data is and how the process flows, we cannot change anything. Yeah? So for me, it's really the most critical, mission critical data has to stay in my hands, not in my personal hand, but in a company. I don't want to hand it out, because if I hand it out, my fear is that we just give it over to a provider, and he handles everything for us, and we lose the knowledge about that. We lose the knowledge where exactly is the data, how is it handled, because it's running. We rely on SLAs, fine, but when it comes to a topic, we need to know how to solve it fast and easy. Yeah. So not only on premise. I mean, the hybrid way is for me the way we will go for the future. There will be no complete on-prem and no complete on cloud. Everybody has to decide which mission critical data or system has to be running when everything else is falling down.
It's interesting because that sounds maybe like you'd foreshadowed what Timo then came and spoke about in terms of the data being actually where the value is. He was talking about the actions, the ability to judge. I think that rings true possibly with what he was saying. Hanna, during that presentation, I saw you taking some photos about the elements of. There were great learnings here, guys. Let's not make a secret of it. And I was wondering what your perspective is on that sort of on-prem, keeping things, that data slightly closer to home, giving it away, where you sit with it.
So let me speak about on-prem and cloud, and I want to contradict you here because I do have a different view, and also as a company, we've taken a different view. So I think that this is a European topic. Sometimes we are too scared of technology providers. And while I value very much what GDPR has done in terms of creating regulation, there is a high risk that we're losing out on technology developments which are happening. So on that part, I strongly believe that hosting data on cloud is completely secure. And as a company, Bosch has also followed that route. That doesn't mean you have to pick one hyperscaler whom you lean into. You can be agnostic here, and that is what we have chosen. But in terms of security, in terms of giving up data control, the decision on-prem versus cloud to me is a full business-wise, and the cloud strategy is definitely the way to lead into the future.
Tobias, what are your thoughts on this? How is it with you?
Yeah, I think it is linked to our long-term strategy. We've always believing in controlling the network physically and controlling the data. And we take some pride that we've been for many, many years the only global player that had a standard operating system in air freight, sea freight. We controlled the AS400 world for many years, even in the past in-house. Okay, then we outsourced that part of the hardware, but still fully controlled our systems and driving it also in other business units. Of course, since a few years, we then also the XML step in between. I will not mention that's all behind us. But then we started the journey a few years ago also into the cloud. We are probably now 95% up in the air, but that doesn't change the fact that we control our data fully end to end. By that, you should have access to superior solutions, and you are more credible towards your clients because you're not waiting for a third party to deliver your status information.
Sebastian, I'm wondering, you've built physical data redundancy at every warehouse, so you can keep operating throughout a network outage. So when you are connected to other things, you've got the security in-house. What was the real driver behind that decision for you?
Well, actually, I'm in between Bosch and Gartner, physically and content-wise. So for us, the on-prem availability of data, here specifically order data, is key for ensuring that operations are running smoothly 24/7. We have a big headcount, we have automated warehouses, we depend on full-time availability of the upstream order data, but we are e-commerce. So obviously we're not living in a data silo, and we depend on data availability within the cloud, being connected with our vast supplier base, and obviously ensuring that we have a constant order inflow. So the setup we've picked is tailored for purpose. And I do believe that keeping the control of your data is key, while isolating yourself too much will become a blocker for business.
So Tim, coming to you, we've now had 4 very concrete defenses saying we do control our data, and everyone has a slightly different approach. You obviously sit on a slightly different layer and have more perspective across different companies. So generally, when a company says, they control their data, what do you think that actually means?
Yeah, I'm Switzerland, I guess, in this setting. No, but I think what it really means, I think first you have to differentiate, are we talking infrastructure versus, I guess, is really what you're doing with the data, right? Two different discussions. Maybe also it's a bit more nuanced than that, but I think ultimately it will depend on the use case. There are simply use cases where it makes sense to run it on-prem, and then there are use cases where I think, cloud is the obvious choice. But I would say, that really depends on the use case. And I think Markus had good reasons why he runs it in its own infrastructure. Same also then for Autodoc, right? So I think that really depends ultimately on what you're trying to solve. And I mean, that's even the recommendation from the hyperscaler, right? By the way, so data residency and also kind of the use case could demand it to run it on-prem. So.
Sebastian, coming back to you, obviously being a B2C operation, it's high speed. The supplier base isn't built for speed necessarily, so you've got that mismatch in those capabilities. How do you stop your slowest supplier setting your pace?
Yeah, well, automotive aftermarket is indeed not the most digital obsessed industry, but we depend on close relationship with our suppliers. With 8 million SKUs, we just can't afford keeping everything on stock. So there has to be like a clear risk strategy behind what is the fast moving inventory, what is the high risk inventory that I actually need to have within my warehouses, and we're somewhere in the ballparks of 1 million SKUs every day in stock. But the ultimate concept behind mitigating the impact of slow-moving supply versus fast-moving demand is we have a multi-tier strategy. We're never having a single supplier approach. We ensure that we always have a backup plan, be it our own fulfillment locations or be it the supply we're utilizing to fulfill customer demand.
So in this sort of high-speed environment, thinking it further on, Hanna, you've also said that when data is flowing that quickly and AI is working, and there's a human that at some point does still need to approve or action, or there's human involvement, there's the fear or the concern that our leaders are maybe, are they going to become the blocker? How are we taking these people with us to help ensure that the speed is guaranteed? And I'm wondering what Bosch does to facilitate that.
So let's zoom out on that, but because I don't think we have discussed that in the course of this day to day. What AI is doing is changing the system and changing the organizations, the way that we operate. I strongly believe that we are not ready, and I speak for most of the companies here in the room, I guess, on taking real-time decisions and also leaving that decision power to people at the edge of the organization or even to AI automation. Because if you look at how the companies were built, we are running on monthly, weekly reporting cycles. We're not running on real-time data decisions. There might be edge cases, and some of us are more advanced than others, and the same holds true for Bosch, depending on if you are in a mission-critical manufacturing environment, and decisions need to be taken on the second. This is already happening today. In other cases, we are very slow. So for me, the fundamental question is, even if we are fully AI ready and capable, how will that impact the way that as leaders we manage organizations, and how will organizations fundamentally change to what we are used to? And I think we can only see that over the course of the next couple of years.
I think that's a really, really interesting take. And I'm wondering, given that you're so involved in that thought process on this, can you give us any insight into what Bosch's answers might be?
So what we do to accelerate that is, of course, on the one hand side, defining our data strategy so that data availability is there and that you can take decisions based on real-time data. That is fundamental, and we've discussed that in many aspects today. Another thing which we're doing more on the human part is to give free access to AI across the entire organization. So we started very early to introduce the different LLMs to really incentivize and motivate people to use it on a daily basis, so that this barrier to adoption, this fear of I can do something wrong or my data is not protected, is going away, while assuring everyone that the space behind it is created in a safe and secure environment. And that is possible because most of the LLM providers also offer enterprise secure environments. And I think that is helping to lower the barriers for adoption.
Thank you. I see what, in comparison to maybe the last round, I saw a lot of nodding in the audience or your co-panelists. Would anyone like to chime in? Maybe Markus, you with a perspective.
I mean, we do a lot of things with calculation from the trucks. We receive a lot of data in real time. And we also developed in the last couple of years to gather all the data in one layer that we can make a decision on that. We built up a system which is not the AI, it's a sophisticated SQL logic decision platform. And there the planner and the dispatcher receives immediately an alarm if the driver is getting off the track, making a break when he's not doing, should not do a break. He's starting to fuel up somewhere we shouldn't fuel up, because we tell him, okay, based on your level of your fuel tank, you should fuel up 300 liters in France, for example, and then you should go further to Germany and fuel up there because it could be cheaper. So we get all the data from our fuel stations, and based on that, we try to do real decisions on real data with the machine. And this was a big change for our planners, because they always tell us, no, the machine is wrong. I'm the better planner. I'm the better dispatcher. I know it's cheaper based on the toll. It took us really a lot of time. And then one single guy, I remember pretty good, he told us, hey, the machine is right. And this was the changing point. And then everybody started, okay, why he could do that and why I can't do that. And we're still working of giving the trust to the people that they will not lose their job because of AI or another program. They will just be more effective, and they can talk with human. They can get more socialized with their drivers. They call the driver, ask the driver, how is it going? Because right now it's impossible with a lot of data and a lot of information and decisions he has to do without, in the future, to scale. It's impossible to do it without a system or a good process or AI. But this is a human change, and it's for all difficult. Also for me as an IT guy, it's difficult to trust the system and find out the right way how to do it. Yeah.
I think the process part is important, because like as a leader, we're usually agnostic of how we get there, as long as the benefit is evident. But when it comes to implementing these processes within teams, I believe one of the key blockers we keep facing is we just try to replicate existing slow-moving processes with AI. And ultimately, those people that have designed the slow process are now tasked to applying AI. I believe for a lot of use cases, the evolutionary approach will not work sufficiently, but we have to make sure that we try to go for a small revolution at least, and convince people based on the outcome we're producing rather than the tools we're offering.
Tim, one of the Lobster approaches we discussed back in Rotterdam was start small and iterate. So I'm guessing that's something that resonates with you as well.
I think it was also what we said earlier, right? The incremental approach, not incremental mindset. I think that's what is shown. Make sure people believe in it and they become multipliers in the organization. And then I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. But you need, I think the human in the loop is not just for the decision, but also in this whole process to really drive that change management process. And I think there's some beautiful examples how it can be done. So yeah, nothing to add there on my side.
Tobias, I'm wondering your perspective also.
Yeah, I mean, I fully join the colleagues here on stage. Data quality is the absolute fundamental issue. So now there we have a little bit the advantage that due to the control of data and all the customs piece, we have enough. The quality is good, but it's not perfect. That's why we're still keeping investing into the KN stack, so that we really believe we can more or less derive all types of use cases without being too worried that the underlying data is not clean or pure. And then change management, that was a topic I would have otherwise mentioned. We really try to work on the two levels. On one hand, the typical productivity and quality increase capability of AI, getting administration automated. If we believe we are representing, some of us at least, I think, Bosch Kühne+Nagel companies with multi-billion turnover. I mean, if you only increase the quality of billing by promille, quick, incredible value. So that's very much internal, but that also helps to get the full conviction through the teams that AI is helpful. You can reconcentrate on more solution-oriented work and less admin work. So that's the internal piece. And of course, customers, partners benefit both ways on the long run. But then the more exciting piece and the real value creation is, of course, the solution building out to the customers. So really bring visibility to a full end-to-end predictive / real-time environment, because then in logistics we all know the single most expensive thing is you're not there in time in full, and AI is helping us big time to improve that. And in these days of increasing or ever increasing volatility, where every day is different, you don't know what's happening, which disaster is happening, IT-wise, political decision, war, whatever. AI helps us, of course, to be much faster in making the analytics and then proposing the right solutions to our clients, shifting modes, postponing, accelerating, etc. So really exciting times, but it's a journey, and don't do it too fast. You might not have everybody on board. So
I like that. I like that answer. I'd also like to then tap into do it slowly, don't go too fast, because you have to start somewhere with the data foundation, which is what we at Lobster keep pushing, I suppose. And that does also rely on master data. And I'm wondering, Sebastian, you found that AI stumbles over your master data quality. And I'm wondering where it already works well for you today and where is it not ready yet?
So we have a lot of use cases where AI has turned out super successful for us. Demand steering, demand forecasting, for instance, we've reduced the necessary time for calculating purchase proposals by almost 80%. That's a great plus. Customer service, frontline interactions are AI-backed. Supplier communication is AI-backed. But some of the very critical processes within the company, if we talk about HS classification, excise duties, export control mechanism, everything that has like a really harsh legal impact if done wrong, we just have to acknowledge that systems versus data availability are not working out as expected. There is a decent set of standardized data, but it's totally insufficient if you want to meet these criteria. And with a vast set of suppliers and manufacturers we're partnering with, that'll take time. And hopefully the ever increasing regulatory pressure, which is hurting all of us, is going to help us improve data quality on some of these critical elements.
Tobias, I hear you agreeing. It's interesting because Kühne+Nagel has spoken publicly about using AI to clean and duplicate their master data with over 90% accuracy. So we've got reflections on poor master data quality, using AI to clean it. I'm wondering if you can weigh in on your perspective. Is the real problem AI or is it the data underneath?
I mean, in the end, it's the data underneath. I mean, if you don't have a sound basis and you can control the sources of data, then, I mean, AI can, of course, lead to certain results and always drive productivity, but then you will have the last doubt, and that's not good. I mean, you in the team inside and towards the customers, you want to be sure that an AI-driven solution is 99% secure. And therefore, I mentioned it a few times, I mean, we have invested over many, many years in controlling our data, having that cleaned up, validated also through partners and suppliers, and now based on that stack, really develop one product after the other per business unit and cross organization, and by the way, also per vertical, because one thing is also clear, a pharma customer with temperature control has a different need than a consumer importer from Asia, where it's more about costs only. And so that's the exciting journey now to bring the underlying stack, the underlying AI universe to a superior level of potential, but then derive the particular vertical solutions, which then create the additional value for the client.
Thank you. We've got about 15 minutes left of the panel, and I'd like to at this point open it up to our audience to submit again some more questions with our tool. So if you want to use your QR code and chip in on the questions we're having here on stage, grab it a scan, add it in, and you can contribute as well, which would be great. In the meantime, I'm wondering, Hanna, Bosch optimized for years around lean inventory and cost, volatility, of course, the chip crisis, global disruption. It's made flexibility and resilience matter even more. So how has that changed what you do with your data, and where does AI help you plan forward rather than just react?
So very good question. So going back, if I reflect what we've been doing in the past was, of course, being very cost efficient on the supply chain. And being the largest global tier 1 supplier, we needed to do that also to serve our customers. What the recent volatility has shown us is that we now need to optimize for resilience for more flexibility. And because it's become so hard to predict what's going to happen, the ability to buffer, the ability to predict the plan A, B, and C, the optionality, you called it, to be flexible between different solutions to a way forward has become much more mission critical than in the past. That doesn't mean that the cost challenge is going away. So from a business perspective, we need to do that while at the same time decreasing SG&A and meeting our EBIT targets as any other business. So the key challenge now, and where AI is actually helping on a business level, is how can AI help us to predict and work on these different scenarios. And again, it's a question of having the right data, getting a master data right, working with your partners and tier 1s and 2s to get access to that. And I'm not saying we've done all of that. I think we're at the beginning, but there is a strong realization that we can only be successful when we do that, and do that investment now. I want to echo what Timo said earlier. We need to act now, and there's no time to sit back and wait and continue as we've done business in the past.
Thank you. Markus, I suppose we're talking about using data to see what's around the corner. And of course, you built that with your tank project, where you've got the fuel cards, the trailers, the driver card data. And I'm wondering, when that coordination works, what do you see within your business, what it buys for you? And I'm also interested to see what the process of getting there looked like, what maybe went wrong before it went right.
The main challenge we had was to get to our suppliers and tell them we need the data, what you have for the fueling. Of course, every supplier has different formats. One is EDI, XML, whatever. Yeah? And then bring it all together, and then calculate the discounts and put it in a data silo and get all the data together and put it up to the, in this case, it's a cloud. Yeah? So because we don't program our own LLM, of course, we don't program this sophisticated algorithm, so we push it to a supplier and then also manage that they can handle this data. This was pretty a challenge for us. To not with Lobster, it was pretty easy, because I don't tell it because it's an advertisement. I tell it because I believe it, and I saw it. I was working with Lobster since 2008, so I know it from the very beginning, and it was really not the challenge to the technical part. It was the challenge to onboard the suppliers, give us the right data, and not. I email once a day at 8, and then next day at 2. We need it at the exact moment that we can push the data and calculate the fuel. Because if we don't do it at 7 at night for all, we cannot predict it. It's the same thing like you do. We cannot plan with it. So this was the key challenge. And what does it bring us? Of course, the visibility. The planner and dispatcher, they see way more than before, because nobody can, with the regulations we have in transportation, everybody, it's difficult to find out which driver, which equipment, which border crossing, whatever. To sum it up, this was the big benefit. They can do more trucks with the same amount of time and in a better quality.
I'm wondering, because I thought it when Timo was talking about there being a visibility or increased visibility. And when you have your increased visibility on routes and everything, and you then have to come together with your partners, there's a level of accountability. There's nowhere to hide. When you work with partners, it's then all on the table. The data's there, and I'm wondering if there were any friction or any pushback at that point between, well, that's not true, but the data's saying it, and it wasn't aligning.
From the supplier, it was an evidence when he wasn't sending the data on the right time. That was the easy one. For the evidence for the planner, this was difficult to check, because the driver was on the fuel station and saw a different price tag on it, because there's no discount mapped on it. And the planner said it's much more expensive what the system is telling me. Yes, because it didn't calculate with the discount. So this was a challenge also, to convince the people to trust the system. And this took really, from my impression, too long, but we couldn't speed it up, like you said, because if you go in there with pressure, you lose them. You have to convince them, and you have to find one guy at the end who's telling, yes, it works. And we're still improving. It's not finished. We still keep on doing it and improving the data.
So we've talked a little bit about what we can see, what's in the future. And I think one of the things that is quite difficult to foresee are cyber attacks. And they've obviously increased by 1,000% since 2021. And they're particularly now targeting customer-facing platforms, where one breach can ripple across many, many companies. Tobias, your business has that kind of a platform. Talk us through how you manage that risk.
Yeah, it goes back to what I said earlier, that we control the physical network, 100 countries, 100% subsidiaries, own offices, and we control the systems. That, of course, is not avoiding that you're attacked at some point, but at least it increases the likeliness that you can defend yourself. That's one thing. And otherwise, we've been investing both into training, because it starts there. I mean, the team has to be aware. And by the way, we've also stopped the access with USB keys to laptops and any computer around the world. Was a culture shock, because you were somehow used to, okay, I do something, and no, that's all stopped. And maybe a very physical example, but one good example. And maybe let's describe it from the empirical evidence. We had only cyber attacks indirectly via customers, actually. We luckily, knock on wood, did not have any direct one. And you cannot say that for all the top 10 competitors. Virtually all of them had. Some had to stop the operation for 48 hours. So let's hope we will continue, but you cannot be 100% sure. So therefore, we continuously invest into the best systems, into everybody being aware that it starts already with the physical access into an office, that not the wrong person can get anywhere. And hopefully and surely AI will both be a solution, but maybe actually also a risk. I'm really curious. Of course, I'm not the CIO, but of course, follow the news. Wow, AI can detect weaknesses in your system. But then the way to protect to some criminal thoughts behind is striking. So it will be a balance of using technology to be defending yourself against cyber attacks, but at the same time, it might become a risk that via an AI defense solution, it could be opening the gate for something you don't want to happen.
For sure. Tim, also as the CEO of a platform company, I suppose, I wonder if you could dive into your perspective on it, if it aligns as well.
Yeah, echoing a little bit what Tobias said, this is also like we invested into the people, so making sure there's awareness. I think it starts with awareness inside. We also penetrate our systems from the outside, so we engage with third parties who help us obviously finding potential threats we have. So it's not just us doing it. Obviously, we have our own motion, but it's also that a third party basically is constantly pen testing and then trying to hack us. So I think it's the second motion we started. And then thirdly, it's also, we had it also mostly that maybe another system at our customer was impacted. So we are working then also with the customer, obviously, in that network to make sure we can resolve those issues quickly. But also on your last point, I think on AI, I think is an important one because I mean, ultimately, especially this company talked about responsible AI, and then they are launching a model which poses potential cybersecurity aspects. Then they launch it safely, but kind of pull it back within 24 hours. So I think it has some, we would say probably in Schwaben, you would say Geschmäckle, but we have to think about that seriously, right? So I think that's why a nuanced approach actually makes really sense. Never go all into something which you cannot assess and judge yet. So I think it was a good example again, dwelling on it, but I think there is a learning out of that which you should take away.
Hanna, when we spoke ahead of this session, you mentioned that Bosch has been ensuring that its tools are AI ready, I suppose, for quite a while now. And I'm wondering if we can weave in this conversation about AI security, ensuring that doesn't become a vulnerability, really. Would you might be able to weigh in on the conversation from that perspective?
I can add to it. I think I agree with a lot what has been said, and we're going on the same path. So training, stress testing from the outside, so searching for these security gaps, and then also working with customers on wherever that is entered from and suppliers. Ultimately, there's probably not one truth to say we can avoid everything. And the way that we are approaching it as a company is to try and balance risk with opportunity. What the philosophy behind it is that the opportunity size is larger than the risk. And that's a business perspective which we're taking as a company, and I believe it's a positive one, because if you go straight in and say the risks are so high and the opportunity size is that small, it changes something on how you adopt AI. So having said that, I'm not saying we're shying away from the risk part, which definitely is there in Anthropic, that example was very, very prominent. So I think in a nutshell, even in this circle, I think all of us don't know collectively what's going to happen in the next 24 months. We're really in an era of radical change, and that technology, it's very hard for us to predict as humans this exponential growth which is now happening. So let's be open for that. That's how I would end the statement on the security part, while at the same time not shy away from the risks and definite threats which can be there.
Tobias, I saw you nodding and
Yeah,
sort of, but okay, wasn't sure if
It's
there
exactly
was
the
a
trade-off.
agreement.
Yeah.
In which case, Tim, over to you.
Yeah, no, I think on the trade-off, I think it's okay to accept risk, but I think you need to have a disaster recovery plan, right? So if you if you speak about cyber security specifically, then I think it's bound to happen potentially, right? So you need to make sure, okay, what's your plan if it happens? So because I think you can't out or count it basically out that it's happening. So you need to have a plan B in case. And I think that's the more important aspect again, the responsiveness, the preparedness for these type of scenarios. And I think that's an important thing which might be as well relevant.
So we're then back on the sort of flexibility piece as well, where it's like if something goes wrong, be flexible and versatile enough to be able to respond. I think that lands us nicely in a final question, one for straight down the panel again. We've spent a lot of time talking about what's hard, what's difficult, how we're figuring it all out. But I'd like to end with something that's actionable for everyone here today. So this is a real move, something that's not a wish list, a concrete thing you tell someone in this room to go and do on Monday.
I started, yeah. I want just to keep on with the security question as an IT guy. And AI is really a big threat for IT because the same thing with the planners on the IT side. We have no ability to scan all the systems and know what's happening. The more people come, the more configuration changes happen. And we implemented a system, and at Gartner we took pretty long. We locked the USB keys 15 years ago. It was a big topic. I had to go to the CEO and explain him why. And I remember before internet, the viruses were traveling via floppy disks, right? So you got a new game and you just inserted it, and then your PC crashed. The change is now the dependency on the systems is way higher. Before, we had everything written down on paper. Everybody knew which truck has which load, which drive is on, what's the name of the kids of the driver, etc. We lost this kind of because we depend on the systems, or we really rely on the systems. So security is really key for me because we are so dependent on the systems. For AI, I agree with you. We should always take also a little bit of a risk to go forward. And if we don't do that, we're going to lose more as European Union. And also for data sovereignty, we should really try to get our own things done, not only in US, because I think it's important that we also have the possibility to build things for our own and not rely on somebody else. Remember, some things just got switched off pretty fast.
As it did 2 weeks ago. Sebastian, moving on to you.
Yeah, well, I'm with both of you, but historically, if we look into companies or IT departments, the big threat is not AI. It's Pete, Michael, Peter, or whatever the name is. Because
it is.
They are stealing your data, they are manipulating it, or if I can relate to Autodoc as an example, we've just turned 18 and we have a strong history of make instead of buy across all these solutions and applications we are using, which comes with an additional risk because Pete, Michael, or whoever might resign at one point of time, and they are taking away a lot of individual knowledge with them. Right. So we've actively utilized AI to go through an entire IT system, to review all the code, to understand all the dependencies within, to document and to fix them. So from our perspective so far, AI has helped us mitigate quite a couple of risks that we would have been facing otherwise.
Just want to answer this here again. Because not Pete. I mean, for us, for IT guys, we use also AI to find the open ports and stuff. We cannot do that. So what we did in the last years, we did external pen tests. So it was always our system was penetrated every year, and really hard. Also with social engineering, going in, giving you a USB stick, it never worked. We had some problems, of course, but we solved them. So we were okay. We're pretty fine. And then we installed the software, and the software is working with AI. So what it does, it takes all the sensors on our systems and sends it to the cloud, and there it makes a digital twin. And the digital twin is then bombarding the systems, not trying to intrude, but he's saying, oh, somebody put in already a USB stick and then starting to hop. And I was okay, we are pretty safe because we do patch management, we have our firewalls up and running, we do segmenting and stuff like that. I was pretty confident. And then I saw the first report. There were 3 hops and we were dead because it was already in the system. Now it's about 36 hops. And this cannot be done by a human because from each server point, there's something, an entry point for a cyber attack. So this is a really thing I love about AI, because no human could do that. And also not an IT guy. Yeah? It makes it visible what you should do.
Thank you, Markus. I really enjoy this conversation we've been having about trying to control the uncontrollable, maybe. To bring it back, and I will come maybe back to you two again, because I would like to give our audience some takeaways to help them control their data, and what is a first step, a second step, the step for Monday. So Hanna, back over to you. A quick actionable item for the audience.
I'll try to make it crisp. For me, the one takeaway is a bias for action. And why is that? I think we are quite good, especially in Germany and maybe also especially in larger companies, of analyzing the problem and understanding and talking about it and deriving great concepts and strategies, but then failing in the execution. So the only takeaway I want to give for everyone here is start doing and stop thinking too hard.
Love that. Tim?
Yeah, I think before we talk about autonomous agents, I think we should talk about autonomy. So I think, are you really, or do you have autonomy in your organization? And I think that really, what you saw well throughout the panel is depends on context. Do you actually own the context of your business? Because it varies, it's more nuanced to actually make the right decisions and then execute against them, right? One thing is making them, and the other one is then executing against them. So I think that will depend on having the right context and being, so to say, autonomous first as an organization before you rely on an agent. So that would be my takeaway.
Thank you, Tim. Tobias?
And I would like to add the element of the change management, not only being material inside your own company, building your competitive edge, but also the process in the interaction with the customers. So we see that in Shenzhen and Silicon Valley, you can send the agent. Don't do that with the Mittelstand and Black Forest, even though they might be extremely innovative and having strong AI footprint, but the relation was built over many years in a personal relation. And we see it's a nice challenge to go on this joint journey and then explain that if we offer the automated chatbot, this is not meant that we reduce our key account investment, but that simply focusing the dialogue on the real value-added topics, planning, making a new end-to-end concept, which is much better than in the past. But the status, the search for where's my shipment, that should get more and more out of the email box. That should be more and more automated, so that we refocus and have quality time in the relation. So, and that's something we really see. It's fun, but it's hard work. And you need to adjust, because it really depends on the industry, on the customer philosophy, big time, and then you can differentiate, because the technology race in the end, it will converge, right? At some point, everybody will have the latest solution, but on the journey to lock in and improve a relation and create more value, it's also this change management element to do it jointly.
Thank you. Coming back round, Markus, Sebastian, another couple, maybe just one thing someone can do on a Monday to feel more in control of their data.
One thing they could do.
We can come back to you, because I think Sebastian...
I think what works best for me is working backwards. Understand the product you're delivering, the service, and try to reverse engineer all it takes to provide that service, be it human factor, be it data, be it physical process, and ensure that you understand the deliverables and how they feed into the process.
Thank you.
For me, it's not only thinking about technology, thinking about processes, with the users, talk to them, try to convince them, and take them on the journey. Like you said, it's the hardest work. Technology is there. We have to use it. We have to convince the people and make it step by step, and not with a big bang.
Brilliant. Well, thank you, everyone. Please join me in thanking our panelists here today. A great conversation. Thank you.